All right, welcome back to another School Principal Reacts. This is a very special video. I'm very excited to make the Principals Tier List Volume 2. And just to give you a little bit of history, 2 years ago today, I believe most of you are probably watching this on June the 7th, 2025. And on June the 7th, 2023, I came up with the idea, or actually started the idea that I'd had for quite some time, of having a channel where a school principal reacts to different situations in TV and movies, and so I started the channel on June 7th, 2023. On June 7th, 2024, I did a principals tier list, and I hope that you have a chance to go back and check it out if you haven't watched it. I have right here just a frame from it, the finished tier list, which I'll briefly go over how I'm going to do that, but I took every single principal that appeared in my videos from the beginning of the channel until that point in time, and I went through and rated them either S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, or F tier. And I'm going to do the very same thing today, but I'm not going to go back to the very beginning here because I've already done all of these pictured here. You see that the principal from the TV show Wednesday was the only one to get S tier, and everybody else fell somewhere in between. I'm going to do the same thing today. I'm going to be doing principals and assistant or vice principals that appear in my videos, and I'm going to go in chronological order. Just a quick reminder on how I'm going to be rating these principals. So just like last time, I rated them in 3 different categories. The first is leadership. In other words, how well do they lead? Are they a good leader? You do have to do that as a principal. You can't be passive even if you get along with everyone. The second category is student relations. Now that refers to their interactions with students. Did they try to mentor students and make a positive impact on them? How do they get along with students? A lot of the principals on these lists don't do well on this area, but some of them do. And then finally, the third category is ethical and legal standards. I will say this is the one where a lot of them tend to get themselves in trouble. So a combination of those 3 areas will determine each principal's rating. Again, S tier through F tier. And again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the tier list video volume 1 and go through principal by principal. I think we have just about the same number of them, and go through and give my rating. Let's go ahead and get started. One quick reminder, if for some reason you've been watching my channel for 2 years and you are still not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click the link below and become a subscriber so that you can show your support for the channel and not miss any of my future content. Let's go ahead and rate these principals. All right, let's get into rating these principals. First up is Henderson is this guy's name, believe it or not, from Spy Family. I actually did not know his name. I had to look it up, but he was the headmaster, or one of the headmasters, from the episode of Spy Family that I reacted to called The Prestigious School Interview. And this is number 1 because it is immediately after the first version of the principals tier list that I did. So let's go through the 3 categories. We've got leadership, and you know, this guy did have some leadership skills. I think that his organization of the little interview process or whatever, and really being organized, says a lot. However, I think he didn't do very well at all in the other 2 areas, which is going to make his rating suffer. So student relations, I do remember really all of the headmasters there being really harsh except for one other guy, but this guy was fairly harsh as well. I mean, half the lines that he says in the show, he like screams them. And so student relations, he really just wasn't great. I didn't hear him speak kindly to anyone really, or do well with the students. He was either excited about how elegant they were, or he was just really, really harsh. And then ethical legal standards, he did not do well in this department either. You can talk about his admissions process and how ethical that was, which it was not at all. He seemed to care more about how prestigious and elegant the students were, or how elegant they were, rather than how they actually performed. And I remember at the end of the episode, he actually punched one of the other headmasters in the nose, which I don't condone at all. You can't do that. He would have been arrested, obviously. So all in all, you put all that together, I'm going to give our first principal, Henderson, a D tier. All right. right, the next principal, or again, vice principal, to appear on this list is from the movie School of Rock. So if you're not a channel member, you may not have seen my reaction to this, but I did a 4-part reaction to the movie School of Rock with Jack Black, and the school does have a principal. It's Miss Rosalie Mullins is her name. I didn't know her first name, but Miss Mullins, I do remember that. Now, the 3 categories: leadership, she was a good leader. I have to give her that. She did well to keep everything organized, tried to enforce the school rules, and for that reason, she was constantly telling Jack Black's character that he really couldn't do what he was asking to do most of the time, and he had to sneak around and do all sorts of unethical things himself as far as his class goes. As far as student relations, she wasn't bad. She was sort of in the middle, I think. She was very professional. She wasn't all that friendly to students, but she was very professional, tried to maintain a safe environment for them, and tried to create a good school culture, although it was a bit more strict, but that's how a lot of private schools are, and I think this was a private school in her case. Ethical and legal standards, I have to give her fairly high marks as well. She constantly tried to maintain, again, a professional environment. I think that towards the end, she may have gotten a little too close to Jack Black, but in general, she did try and keep everything above board, and again, that's why she ended up saying no to a lot of the things that Jack Black wanted to do in the movie. The biggest thing I think that would take away points and keep her off S tier or even A tier is really her failure to check into Jack Black's character. He was basically, if you've seen the movie, he was a total fraud and was impersonating someone else, and he was found out in the end, and she really should have observed more than she did. She really only observed the class toward the end of the movie, and he was able to do all sorts of shenanigans in the class without her knowing about it, and really just sort of turned a blind eye and failed to really check him out. So for that reason, I would give her pretty high. I think she was a pretty good principal, a lot better than some of the others on this list, I will say that. I think all in all, when I went down the list, this list tended to do a lot better than the first version of this tier list, because we had an awful lot of D tiers and F tiers, but Miss Mullins from School of Rock, I'm going to give her a solid B tier. All right, you all have probably been looking forward to this one. It was about a month after the first tier list video that I did the episode of Ned's called Vice Principals. I think that was one of the most watched episodes of Ned's Declassified that I reacted to. Vice Principal Kubs. You know, I'm sort of torn on him as far as how he's going to do on this tier list. So let's talk about the different 3 categories. You've got leadership. So you got to hand him that. He was a strong leader. I mean, sometimes how he led was rather problematic, but he wasn't passive. I mean, you have to give him that. He did do a lot in the school in the episodes that he is in. He was very active. He tries not to let things slide. He is very whimsical and crazy in how he communicates that. I remember he's always doing the thing with his watch or whatever. It's kind of crazy, but he is a strong leader. I'll give him that. As far as student relations go, it's sort of a mix. So he does, I think, care about Ned and Mose and Cookie and all of the others, and I think it's sort of a tough love kind of situations, which you do have with a lot of vice principals or assistant principals, and he does care about them, I think. However, he also gets potential firings in a lot of these episodes, and some of it is about how he treats the students. You really can't get physical with them. You can't like pull them around and push them around and stuff like that, which I know it's kind of a crazy show sometimes, but you can't do that. In terms of ethical and legal standards, he doesn't do so well, particularly in the episode Principals, where you're introduced to Principal Powell, which we'll get to later on this list. He tries to deliberately lock interviewees in that little locked courtyard, and he creates a fake pandemic to scare people off and does all sorts of other shenanigans, and all of his potential firings that he has throughout the series. I don't know how many he's had total. I do have a viewer that is keeping track of it. You know who you are from the Discord, but he does rack up a lot of them. So thinking about all of that, putting that together, on one hand, he's good to Ned and the others, or at least tries to keep him on track, and he's a good leader, but he's so bad when it comes to ethical and legal standards sometimes. I'm going to give him right smack in the middle. Vice Principal Kubs gets a C tier. All right, not long after that, I filmed my reaction for the first time to The Fairly Odd Parents. That remains a popular series on this channel, and I know a number of you still want me to react to more of that, and I will. So this is Principal Waxelax, I think her name is, and all in all, I think she was okay. She was better than, again, a lot of the other ones on this list. So going down the list in terms of leadership, I think she was a fairly strong leader, although she had kind of an odd style, but within the context of The Fairly Odd Parents, it's not that odd. So she was a strong leader. I've seen her in the episodes that I've reacted to put on different events and do a lot of public speaking, very well organized. I think she's a good leader. In terms of student relations, she does a pretty good job. She is a little bit strict with people, but student relations, she does okay with the students. You can see her talking to Timmy here. I think that's his name. But if she doesn't do so well in this area, it's really just keeping the students safe, you could say, by not keeping Crocker in line. I remember him creating various machines and things to catch the students, and he wants to catch the fairy godparents or whatever they're called, and he doesn't seem to care that much about the kids or whether they even get hurt or anything like that, and it's her job to maintain a safe environment. Also, ethical and legal standards, she does okay. It's really that same issue that would bring her down as far as keeping the kids safe and keeping them really away from Crocker. Really, Crocker does not need to be a teacher. He's so obsessed with the fairies that he doesn't do much teaching. I don't really know that I've ever seen him do a whole lot of teaching, in fact. But when I put all these together, she's not bad. She really isn't bad. And later on this list, we'll see others that are just far worse in terms of their ethical standards and interactions with students. She really does okay, better than average. I'll give her a solid B tier. All right, not long after that, I did do one episode of Boy Meets World, which back in the day, it was an extremely popular show. You see Corey Matthews, the main character here, with Mr. Feny. And Mr. Feny, I think he starts as a teacher, but on the episode I reacted to, check it out if you haven't seen it. It's the first day of school and the first day where Corey is in either high school. They call it high school, but it's more like junior high. I think he's in 7th grade. And he finds out that Mr. Feny, I almost said Mr. Sweeney, like from Ned's Declassified, that he turns around in his office chair and he finds that he's the principal or acting principal, and I go through what exactly that means. So all in all, I like Mr. Feny. I think he would be a good principal, even maybe in real life. So leadership, he is a very strong leader. I've seen a couple of episodes, or I remember back in the day seeing bits and pieces of when he was a teacher also. Very strong leadership. You have to give him that. Holding students accountable for sure, and which is why he and Corey have this kind of tough love kind of relationship like they have. Student relations, pretty good. I mean, he is sort of harsh. I think I would probably knock him down at least one rating, at least for this, because I do remember in the episode, which I think is called Back to School, the one I reacted to on this channel. Check that out if you haven't seen it. But he says, like, get out of my face, and he's just really a little too harsh with Corey. You can be firm. There's nothing wrong with that, particularly with students that need that. You do have students that need that, but you can't be quite that harsh. You could get yourself into some trouble. Ethical and legal standards, other than what I just mentioned, I think Mr. Feny does a really good job. He is really big into enforcing the rules within reason. I did see him deal with that assistant principal that is not on this list. He would probably get an F tier. He was horrible, but he only appears in that one brief scene. I forgot what his name was, and he had that tight little bow tie, but he resolves the situation with him holding Corey accountable while getting him out of that ridiculous rap or whatever it was that he was involved in with that assistant principal just being in the hallway too late or something like that. But all in all, Mr. Feny did a really good job. I think if he were just a little less harsh, he would probably get S tier, but I have to give him A tier. He did a pretty good job as principal or acting principal. All right, I looked at my videos, and right after I did Boy Meets World, the next principal, I guess technically speaking, was FaZe Rug himself, believe it or not. So sometimes I do react to YouTube videos that other people make that have to do with education, and one of them that I did early on in the summer was a video where FaZe Rug acts as the principal of a school for an entire day, and you see this is the thumbnail from my video. It says coolest principal ever. You know, it sounds good, but but this is why FaZe Rug is not going to get that great of a rating. But let's talk about that. So if you watch either the original content or my reaction to it, you can see leadership is not great. I mean, does he do some things? Yes. But most of those things that he does in the video revolves around giving away prizes and just having students play games all day. That's great if you use it as an incentive. In other words, hey, the student that gets the highest grades, or everybody who's passing their classes, or everybody who makes a certain grade on a particular assessment gets this, whatever it is, or people who grow in a certain area. He doesn't really do that so much. It's just sort of random, but he does do a few things as far as his one day as principal. Student relations are really good. You can't say that he's bad in that area, but I think that's also his downfall, because it seems like he just wants to be perceived as cool by all the students. And so he really goes too far with that and really tries to become everybody's friend, which if you're a principal in real life, you can be friendly and you want to be friendly to students, but you can't be their friend because you are also responsible for enforcing the rules and accountability. In terms of ethical and legal standards, this is really his downfall, because there are several scenes in my reaction video to the video, where he just lets people off scot-free and tells them they can go home in the middle of the day. And there's one part where some person had his phone in class and he just tells them, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just get rid of that. You really can't do that. And as a principal, if you did that in real life, you yourself would get in trouble with the school board or the superintendent or the Board of Education. But he really cannot do that. He really went too far in trying to be everybody's friend. So FaZe Rug, hopefully you're not watching this. I don't think that he probably is, but all in all, when you put that together, he's going to get a D tier rating. All right, the next reaction video that I did that featured a principal was from Hey Arnold, and it's not Principal Warts this time, because he was on the first version, and I think he got either D tier or F tier. I can't remember. He did all right. He was really not that bad. It's just how he did his job and how harsh he was and how ridiculous he was at times that got him in trouble. He sort of tried to enforce the rules but went too far. But today we're talking about Principal Simmons. A number of you recommended that I react to an episode called Principal Simmons, where Mr. Simmons, the teacher, becomes the principal for one episode, and you see him here up on the stage. I believe this is a screenshot from that episode. He really didn't do all that great, and there are plenty of people out there that are wonderful teachers that would not be great administrators for various reasons. So, in his case, leadership style, he was okay. He was really too lax and was really, again, kind of like FaZe Rug. He wanted to be everybody's friend and wanted to just make everyone happy, and he ran his classroom like that. He did sort of hold people accountable at times, but he really wanted to just keep the classroom positive, and you do that as a school leader as well. However, you have to enforce the rules and hold people accountable. When it came to student relations, he did really, really well, but he was almost too nice to students and just, again, wanted to make everyone happy, and this, kind of like FaZe Rug, would be his downfall. When it comes to ethical and legal standards, it's sort of the same story like leadership. He just did not enforce the rules, and everybody sort of did whatever they wanted to do, and in the end, they had to bring Principal Warts back. And while Principal Warts is not so great when it comes to student relations, he does try to enforce the rules and can at least keep the school together. Now, he didn't get a good rating either, but as far as Mr. Simmons goes in his role as principal, when you put all that together, you do sort of have to give him credit for his wanting to help students grow and being such a mentor to students. So despite his failure in terms of leadership, I'll give him kind of middle of the road. I'll give him a C tier. All right, here we go. This is Principal Trunchbull from the movie Matilda. If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to check out my reaction to the movie Matilda. It was really good. I did enjoy it, and thank you all for recommending that movie to me. It's in 2 parts, and I think Principal Trunchbull holds the record for the highest number of potential firings in the history of School Principal Reacts, at least in a single video. So she's absolutely horrible in terms of leadership. You could argue, she is a leader of sorts. Now, she does lead the school, but she does it in such a corrupt and mean-spirited way that she really needed to be fired and arrested immediately. I think it was within 5 minutes of my video where I had said that. She's really horrible in this area. Even as strong of a leader you want to say that she is, you can't be a leader and throw kids in the chokey, if you remember that, and talk to them the way that she does. Student relations is probably the worst of any principal on this channel I've ever seen. I don't even know what to say about it. She, again, put kids in the chokey and did, I think it was the hammer throw where she threw them, and I saw her throw some kids out the window. Really needs to be arrested and put in jail for a very long time. Ethical and legal standards, this is sort of the same story. You cannot do all that and have any sense of ethics or legal standard. She was really the worst in this area that I've ever seen. Can you all guess what her rating is? I think F tier is probably too good for her, but I'm going to give her an F tier. All right, when I look down at my next few videos, this one was really interesting. I thought to myself, well, this guy was a principal, or they may have called him a headmaster. This is from an episode of Avatar, The Last Airbender, and it's called The Headband, I believe. A lot of you all who are fans of the show recommended that I watch this episode. Primarily, Teacher's Pet level channel member, Kaimani Burrell. So thank you, Kaimani, if you're watching this video. So this guy was interesting. He was only in that one episode that I know of. I've only watched one, but he's principal or headmaster of the Fire Nation School. Leadership-wise, you could argue that he does okay. Granted, he made a lot of bad decisions in this episode, primarily trying to punish the main character for dodging a bunch of punches from this bully and then doing nothing to the bully. He calls a parent conference, which if you did think there was a problem with the student, that is what you would do, is call the parents and have a conference with them. And he does give him something of a warning, I think, which is probably good. He doesn't just toss him out or suspend him or something like that, but not the best. In terms of student relations, he was pretty bad. So again, I know from this scene, this screenshot may have even come from the scene where the main character and this bully start to get into a fight, and the main character really just dodges him a bunch of times, and then he's the one that's called in by this headmaster and gets in trouble. So I don't agree with that, and the headmaster was really, really harsh to pretty much everybody. You can't run a school like that. Ethical and legal standards, I guess I'll give him a little bit of credit because he did not physically touch the main character. He didn't push him around or anything, but he said, have your parents have a conference with me. Let's talk about this, which that is what you would do. So I have to give him a little credit for that. But all in all, this guy would not be very good as a principal. Maybe it's a little different in the Fire Nation, I know, but I have to give him a little bit better than F tier. I'll give him a D tier. All right, next up is Mr. Bone, who is the vice principal or assistant principal in the TV show Doug. I do plan to do more reactions to Doug if you are a fan of that particular show, but I did one a while back. I'm blanking on the name of the episode, but I do remember Mr. Bone being featured in that episode. He did pretty badly in all three areas. So leadership, not the best. He has that stereotypical, really harsh style, and the thing I have an issue with the most is he's not paying attention when he was in detention. I don't even know if he was in the room or not, and allowing this thing between Doug and Roger to happen. And then outside, when there's almost a fight, he just says, oh, go about your business, or whatever he says. He doesn't talk to Doug and Roger and figure out what's going on or anything. He just tells them to leave. So not great for Mr. Bone. When it comes to student relations, he's pretty horrible. I have seen bits and pieces of other episodes. I do remember watching this TV show when it aired, because I was around during that time, very much so, but he was always really, really harsh and had that kind of stereotypical principal or assistant principal vibe. I don't know why, but in so many TV shows and movies, the principal or assistant principal is just really, really harsh, and that's how Mr. Bone is, so I give him pretty low marks in this area. Ethical and legal standards, he doesn't do that great. Again, it's the same two things. During this episode that I reacted to, he left the room, I think. I don't think he was even in the room during detention, or at the very least, he didn't even see Doug accidentally hit Roger in the nose like he does, and doesn't say anything about it. And then a fight almost happens after school, and he doesn't seem to react in any way to that or give them any sort of consequences. He just lets them go, which you don't do that. I mean, the fight could happen right after that or the next day or something, and he just really doesn't do anything about it. So all in all, Mr. Bone does not do a good job, does not rate highly in my book. I'm going to have to give him an F tier. All right, not long after that, I reviewed a TV show that you guys told me about called Big Time Rush, and during this episode, you've got Principal Rock. I think the episode was called School of Rock, but not like the Jack Black movie, but it was Rock spelled R-O-C-Q-U-E. So you had this guy, Principal Rock, and I'm not sure really what his motive was, but he had these singers or these band members in school, and please forgive me, I've only seen one episode of this particular show, but I do remember he really just kind of tortured them the whole time, and he got these different teachers to come in and teach them that were all really, really horrible, and it was really just torture for the kids the entire time. So leadership skills, not great. He was really just harsh to them and yelled at them for the entire episode. For the same reason, I would probably give him low marks in terms of student relations. He literally yelled at them several times in the episode, and it seemed like he was doing his best just to torture them and didn't seem to care as much about their learning or their education. In terms of ethical and legal standards, you could argue that he tried to go by this set of rules that they had in this network of private schools, whatever their handbook or bylaws or whatever. I think they called them bylaws in this episode. He tried to go by them, but really he was just exploiting them to his own advantage and getting all these different teachers to come. I didn't see him do really anything positive for this entire episode. So Principal Rock from Big Time Rush, I'm going to give him a big fat F tier. All right, I've been waiting for this one. Not long after I did Big Time Rush, I began doing episodes of King of the Hill, which I know a lot of you liked that. If you're a fan of the show, there are a number of episodes where Bobby goes to school and there are issues there. Check out my King of the Hill playlist if you haven't yet seen these. But this is Principal Carl Moss, and from what I've seen from him, he is pretty terrible and is not going to do well on this list, I can tell. When I think about the different areas that I'm rating them in, leadership skills, he does okay. I'll give him a little bit of credit. He does try and enforce the rules. I've seen that on a few occasions. It's the way that he does it and his performance in the other two areas that are really going to get him in trouble. But he does. I have heard him quote different rules at different times to Hank and to Bobby, but he is just straight up corrupt, which we'll get to that. As far as student relations, he is fairly harsh. I have seen him put on this kind of harsh persona when he talks to people and doesn't really seem to care about the kids very much at all from what I've seen. Ethical and legal standards, this is really what's going to earn him the rating that he gets because he is very, very corrupt. The first episode that I took a look at, I believe he did a lot of corrupt things and just really broke the law a lot of times when it comes to special education and other issues that popped up. Check out, again, my reactions to King of the Hill if you haven't yet seen them, but he, a number of times, does things that are just straight up illegal or certainly unethical, particularly when it comes to the episode about standardized testing and the shenanigans that he tries to pull there. Nowadays, he would probably just be arrested the way test security is now. So all in all, when you put all those things together, I'm going to give him a little bit of credit. I won't give him F tier, which he probably does deserve F tier, but he does try and enforce the rules from time to time. I'll go ahead and give him one better than F tier. I'll give him a D tier. All right, rounding out the end of this tier list, we've got two more to go. This is Principal Pal, and you all were anticipating this for a long time on the Ned's Declassified episode Principals, where you're introduced to Principal Pal, who is retiring. He is pretty bad. He's not going to do well, I don't think, on this tier list. So going down the list, leadership, he really doesn't seem to care. The first episode that we're introduced to him, he says he's retiring the next day and doesn't seem to care at all about really anything, but yet ironically you get to the Halloween episodes and he's for some reason still there, and that's all he cares about is partying and pulling pranks on kids. He doesn't seem to care about Polk Middle School really at all and just does whatever he wants. He's not much of a leader. As far as student relations, I mean, you could argue he's somewhat kind to the kids but doesn't seem to know who anybody is. There's a running joke that he just always calls all of the kids boys, including Mose. That's sort of a running joke, but he doesn't seem to really want anything to do with them. He just plays around and does whatever he wants all day and doesn't really have too much contact with the kids. I do remember a line from the show where Mose is trying to get him to connect with the kids at lunch, and then she says, "It's your favorite time of day." And he's like, "What, dismissal?" As in when the kids go home. So not too great in the area of student relations. Ethical and legal standards, this is what is really going to hurt his rating. So as time goes on and you watch these episodes with Principal Pal, he does things that are so crazy, he really would be fired instantly and possibly arrested for some of the things that he does because he acts so crazy and out of his mind that he really does not need to be around children. So ethical and legal standards are really, really bad. So when you put all of this together, I don't think we can give Principal Pal anything other than, unfortunately, F tier. All right, last but certainly not least, this is Mr. Wright. So on the same episode that I was mentioning earlier called Principals, it's all about the interviews to become the next principal of Polk Middle School. And in the end, Mr. Wright ends up getting the job. And I'm currently still in the middle of season 3 where Mr. Wright is principal. So he actually does pretty well in all 3 areas. I've seen him in several episodes now as principal and of course as a teacher also from the beginning of the series. So leadership, he does pretty well in this area. He tackles problems head on with a very balanced, measured approach. I also recall the episode where Cookie is obsessing over his grades and Mr. Wright is making concerted efforts to improve their scores. Granted, they have to learn a little lesson about not obsessing over your grades, but still making them a priority. In terms of student relations, you really can't get much better than Mr. Wright. There are principals on this list that really just try to make everybody happy and that's it. But Mr. Wright does that, but also teaches life lessons. He's a great mentor. He tries to get students to grow in everything that they're doing and is really a model for others to follow in this area. In terms of ethical and legal standards, again, I have to give him high marks. He does an outstanding job and really is above board. I've never seen him really do anything that's unethical or illegal. I can't say that for a lot of the other people on this tier list, but as far as Mr. Wright goes, he kind of does everything right, so to speak. So I thought it was the perfect ending. I did not end this list with him on purpose. It's just the way that it sort of panned out. But I have to give Mr. Wright S tier. He did an amazing job. Well, that's going to wrap up this Principals Tier List Volume 2. I want to thank you if you're joining me on the 2nd anniversary of this channel. I believe in the first tier list video, I mentioned having 5,000 subscribers. I think as of the filming of this video, I'm nearing 13,000, and I hope to continue right along with you. Let me know in the comments section if you have any suggestions for future content, or if there are other tier list videos you would like to see. Some of you have mentioned teacher tier lists, or students, or characters, or episode tier lists, or other things. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. And finally, I just want to thank everyone who watches this channel, all of the commenters, all of the subscribers, all of the channel members, and those that support the channel simply by watching my videos. I couldn't do this without you, and so I want to give a sincere thanks to all of you. I do plan to continue the channel for the foreseeable future, so I'll see you on the 3rd anniversary of the channel in June of 2026. But until then, I hope you continue to enjoy my content. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. I'll see you on the next video. This has been Brandon from School Principal Reacts. As always, thanks for watching.